Hello.
Welcome to the demo of ASP onboarding from Trust Systems. We are one of the approved GSP and provided the interface for
Welcome.
any ASP to come on board
Here we are
and
discussing
get interface to
how the
us.
software
So
works
to log
from
into the
ASP
ASP management
creation
portal,
to
this is the
file system.
administrator for the
So let's start from
ASP
ASP creation
management,
first. So
and
for ASP
one can
creation, we
see
need to log in with
the URL called
the user who have
sandbox.gsp.in/admin
rights,
home, and this will be
has
uh,
admin
given to the
user.
administrator.
So
Now the
we
ASP onboarding can be
start
done in two
with
ways. One can go
login
to the
admin user.
website and send a request to become an
Now
ASP, and
for
another thing
ASP
is to
creation,
um, come through the interface
here is the
of
menu
administration and
ASP
then create
management.
a new
So click
ASP.
on ASP management.
So
Then
we'll see the another step, which is basically doing
already
ASP
created
registration from
ASPs
the
are
administrator
displaying
part.
here.
So once we click on
For
add new,
adding new
um,
ASP,
the
we need
form will
to
get
click on
launched,
add new.
where all the details of the
After
ASP
click on add
will be
new,
added. So which
pop-up
includes
will
the company
display.
name, company contact person,
So
software
enter the
types.
fields
This is just
which
to
are
collect the information,
mentioned
what kind of
here.
customers are or what kind of ASPs are to be interfaced with a GSP. Now, the details are uh, all details are important, and mandatory for the customer or ASP to add in. Now,
Enter
the
company
how it
name,
going to work is
enter
that once the
software type.
ASP gets onboarded, ASP will get some kind of a key or a secret key from a GSP India, which will be configured in their software, and that key will be used to track the request or
Enter
payloads
software
coming from
industry, list of
individual
the customer.
ASPs. Now we have two levels of hierarchies, which will actually will show you later in the demo. Is that every ASP uh, can register its own taxpayers, that means GSTINs. This is to make sure that there's a flexibility for the ASP to select its own um, taxpayers from where the information
From
is
this
going
screen,
to
we are
get
taking
into the GSTN.
information of
Now, from a
GSTN.
GSP perspective, it's immaterial how many GSTNs the ASP is going to send, and at the same time, it is immaterial for the GSTN, except the JSON payload coming through, is which ASP it is coming through.
Contact
Because
details
we feel that
related to
ASP is basically the interface to only GSP, and GSTN may not be
contact
interested to
person
understand how
email
it's going to
address.
go through. So it's a pass-through kind of a mechanism where the payload gets loaded. So this is the process where the ASP gets added, and there is a procedure of approval as well as enabling the access mechanism, and we'll show you all, including the errors coming
So
through, or
after entering all the details,
when the
now
data is
click
not right, or if the access
click
is
on save
disabled, then
changes.
how it goes works.
After
So
click
this is
on
the way
save
we do
changes,
that. Now there are a
the
couple of errors, you
ASP
can
was
see that, like,
added.
and it's going through.
As
Now you can
as the
see
first
the
record is
new
displaying
ID gets
the
created,
recently
which is a user
created
ID,
ASP is there.
and this user
So
ID is
this
by default
ASP
it's in the
is
disable.
now
Now since
disabled.
we created this account for the ASP from the another portal, like from the,
First we
this is the
see
administration portal,
after
but from the
creating this
ASP
ASP,
portal one can log into the
credentials for
server
this ASP login means
and manage its
username and
own taxpayers. So as we
passwords
said, there are two levels of
will send
hierarchies.
to the email
So if you
address
go
which we
to
mentioned.
the information, since the
Here
ID is
are
getting
the
created, you can see a new registration created,
credentials
which is basically
for the newly
ID and a
created
password getting
ASP.
created. Now this is basically the GSP user and passwords, and this is basically our system, like the ASP portal, uh, where it's each ASP can manage its own information. So that's a portal. Now coming back to the ASP logins, let's go to the uh, ASP management portal. This is, since
Logout,
it's existing
click
login,
on
we
logout
just want to
as we are
close it off
logged with
and
admin user.
come to
Now go to
a
customer
new ASP
portal.
login page. So till that, we have seen the
Enter the
administration,
credentials
but
of
now what we
the
have is
created ASP.
the ASP himself logging to the portal.
Enter password.
You can see an error because
Here
what
the
happened is
message
by
is
default
displayed that login is
the
disabled
ASP who comes
as
down
we are
on
not
board is disabled because we
enable
want
the
appropriate
created
stage to
ASP yet.
approve after the
So
documents and every
here
verification has been
we
done
we
and all the contracts get
enable that
signed. So once
ASP,
this is done, then
and
we enable the
now
account,
we are going to
and once we enable the
log in with
account,
that ASP.
the user can log in,
So the now
and once he
login
logs in,
user login
you can see
successfully.
his dashboards, like you can see his information, what it is, how many taxpayers he is going to connect, how many taxpayer GSTN he has collected, and all that. Now the next step is, since he's talking to many
Simultaneously, we
taxpayers or
also
the
have a
GSTNs
mail
from where the data is
that
going through,
contains the
we have a mechanism of mapping the
credentials
taxpayers
as we are logging with
to each ASP. This is not
gspindia.in,
interested to the
right?
GSP as such, but this is
So
to do a
we
ASP
also have
management part
one
of it.
mail which
So
has
now if you look
the
at,
credential of
we also have a mechanism, we have one administration
gsp.co.in.
portal where user
So
can see
we can log
registration
in
of
with
it,
this
of
credential
that particular GSP. Through a API
gspindia.co.in.
call, we can see how many ASPs are registered on a GSP, and to make sure that he can see his logs, he can see his returns, everything. So that's the additional interface which we can be provided to him.
So for
This
that,
is
the
this may not be
username
required
is
as such for
assigned
every
to
ASP because the
one
log
name.
which he can see is available for
Now
himself
enter the password for
and for
that.
each taxpayers he is sending the data.
Uh,
This is the additional information or
Here for
the
GSP India, we also logged in
the
successfully with
access we
that
have given
ASP user.
so that it can be a self-serviced
So
terminal
we
kind
will
of thing
proceed for
for him.
taxpayer creation under that
Now coming back to the
ASP. So go to
ASP management part of it,
gspindia.in
as we said, there is a
and
taxpayer
click on
addition, so we
taxpayer.
can go to the taxpayer,
After
and
clicking the
we can
same
add the
screen
taxpayer
will
with the
display.
appropriate GSTN number,
After,
who can basically
click on
file
add
his
taxpayer.
returns through ASP,
Here
because ASP
enter
also
the details
needs
of that taxpayer.
control over the taxpayers filing of GSTRs. So let's wait till the time the information gets filled in. So all the taxpayer information is filled into the system,
Click
and we
on
can say
create
create
taxpayer.
software. It will give errors. There's a validations which have been put in just to show that there's a validations coming in because we wanted a very particular information to go through, and we can create a taxpayer.
Now the
So you can
TP
see
is
the
created
taxpayer is getting created under the
successfully.
ASP,
To
and once this is done, then on the
gsp.co.in,
GSP
the
side we can see a
created
mapping of it with Mr.
taxpayer
Sri
who
Narayan
login.
coming in as a part of it. At the same
We also
time, you can see a mails
and credential
for the individual taxpayers, um, where now this is information which
created
basically
taxpayer
is
has
for
these
the TP
credentials.
to view.
Two mails for
So what's happening is,
same process we
as
have
we said again,
followed
by
here.
default is logins are disabled, so we enable the taxpayers login.
So india.co.in and login with
Now you can see how many
taxpayer
GSTNs have mapped to a
where
particular
login.
ASP. So you can see the other
Here we
numbers
can
and
see
everything, the
the
GSTN coming
created
in.
GS.
So that information is just for the logging purpose to make sure that
So login with the ASP.
now coming back to the ASP its own page,
Here we see
as the ASP
the
sending
number of
multiple
taxpayer
records,
we
multiple
have
returns through
created
its
under
own
the
portal and then pass it
ASP.
out to GSP. We also have a
Number of
mechanism of
taxpayer, number
viewing a
of
log uh,
taxpayer
where
GSTN
the
number,
ASP can see its own payload size. It can see how many requests it has seen in a particular time. It can
here
also
we
have
also
a
see the
request
log
of
for
what
that
particular
ASP.
API calls he has made, or what kind of return types he has made. Like if it's a GSTR1 related, we have filters there, where um, what information you can do. Now, if you look at the get data kind of thing, you can see a log generated for that
Log
particular
generated successfully.
ASP, uh, like how many
As we
requests it
can
has, how
see,
many payloads request he has sent. So how many payload response he has received, how
between
many
that
requests he has
period,
sent in a day of that
the
particular time,
total
and how
number
many
of
transactions he has done.
request
Now, if you look at
payload,
the details
total
below, it's basically
response
GSTN
payload,
wise data he has sent it with what username and passwords, and what URL
total
it has
request
hidden,
sent,
and at the
total
same
number
time what
of
the JSON header
transactions,
is there. So in case of any error and all that, he can very well check
the data
the
will
errors coming
display
from
as per the
GSTN.
okay.
So this is basically a very
So
brief
this
process
is
of
the
doing a ASP
demo
onboarding.
what how our software work from ASP create